she should wash her teeth, bathe, and dress herself with white cloth and ornaments. And before taking breakfast, she should worship Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi. She should then pray to the Lord as follows: My dear Lord, you are full of all opulences, but I do not beg you for opulence. I simply offer my respectful obeisances unto you. You are the husband and master of Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, who has all opulences. Therefore you are the master of all mystic yoga. I simply offer my obeisances unto you. Purport: A devotee knows how to appreciate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Purnam Adak Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. The personality of God is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Therefore, to take shelter of the Supreme Lord is required. Whatever a devotee needs will be supplied by the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tesham nityabdhyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Therefore, a pure devotee will not ask anything from the Lord. He simply offers the Lord his respectful obeisances, and the Lord is prepared to accept whatever the devotee can secure to worship him, even patram, pushpam, palam, toyam. A leaf, a flower, fruit, or water. There is no need to artificially exert oneself. There is no need to artificially exert oneself. Apparently I like that. It is better to be plain and simple, and with respectful obeisances offer to the Lord whatever one can secure. The Lord is completely able to bless the devotee with all opulences. 5. Any reaction to the purport? You what? Relief. Any other reaction? Like? Super like? 5. O my Lord, because you are endowed with causeless mercy, all opulences, all prowess, and all glories, strength and transcendental qualities, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of everyone. Purport: in this verse, the words Tatosi Bhagavan Prabhu mean, therefore you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of everyone. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is endowed with all 6 opulences in full, and moreover he is extremely kind to his devotee. Although he is full in himself, he nonetheless wants all the living entities to surrender unto him so that they may engage in his service. Thus he becomes satisfied. Although he is full in himself, he nonetheless becomes pleased when his devotee offers him patram pushpam palam toyam, a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water in devotion. Sometimes the Lord, as the child of Mother Yashoda, requests his devotee for some food, as if he were very hungry. Sometimes he tells his devotee in a dream that his temple and his garden are now very old, and that he cannot enjoy them very nicely. Thus he requests the devotee to repair them. Sometimes he is buried in the earth, and as if unable to come out himself, he requests his devotee to rescue him. Sometimes he requests his devotee to preach his glories all over the world, although he alone is quite competent to perform this task. Even though the Supreme Personality of Godhead is endowed with all possessions and is self-sufficient, he depends on his devotees. Therefore, the relationship of the Lord with his devotees is extremely confidential. Only the devotee can perceive how the Lord, although full in himself, depends on his devotee for some particular work. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita 11:33, where the Lord tells Arjuna, Nimitta matram bhavasavyasachin. O Arjuna, merely be an instrument in the fight. Lord Krishna has the competence to win the battle of Kurukshetra, but nonetheless he induced his devotee Arjuna to fight and become the cause of victory. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is quite confident enough to spread his name and mission all over the world, but still he depended upon his devotee to do this work. Considering all these points, the most important aspect of the Supreme Lord's self-sufficiency is that he depends on his devotees. This is called his causeless mercy. The devotee who has perceived this causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by realization can understand the master and the servant. Text 6.
After profusely offering obeisances to Lord Vishnu, the devotee should offer respectful obeisances unto Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, and pray as follows. O wife of Lord Vishnu, O internal energy of Lord Vishnu, you are as good as Lord Vishnu himself, for you have all of his qualities and opulences. O goddess of fortune, please be kind to me. O mother of the entire world, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. The Lord has multifarious potencies. Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. Since Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is the Lord's very precious potency, she is addressed here as Maha Maye. The word Maya means Shakti. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme, cannot exhibit his power everywhere without his principal energy. It is said, Shakti Shaktiman Abeda. The power and the powerful are identical. Therefore, Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is the constant companion of Lord Vishnu. They remain together constantly. One cannot keep Lakshmi in one's home without Lord Vishnu. To think that one can do so is very dangerous. To keep Lakshmi, or the riches of the Lord, without the service of the Lord is always dangerous. For then Lakshmi becomes the illusory energy. With Lord Vishnu, however, Lakshmi is the spiritual. With Lord Vishnu, however, Lakshmi is the spiritual energy. 7. My Lord Vishnu, full of 6 opulences, you are the best of all enjoyers, and the most powerful. O husband of Mother Lakshmi, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are accompanied by many associates, such as Vishwaksena. I offer all the paraphernalia for worshipping you. One should chant this mantra every day with great attention while worshipping Lord Vishnu with all paraphernalia, such as water for washing his feet, hands, and mouth, and water for his bath. One must offer him various presentations for his worship, such as garments, a sacred thread, ornaments, scents, flowers, incense, and lamps. Purport. This mantra is very important. Anyone engaged in deity worship should chant this mantra, as quoted above, beginning with Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya. Text 8. Shukadeva Goswami continued, after worshipping the Lord with all the paraphernalia mentioned above, one should chant the following mantra while offering 12 oblations of ghee on the sacred fire. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya Mahavibhuti Pataye Swaha. Text 9. If one desires all opulences, his duty is to daily worship Lord Vishnu with his wife Lakshmi. With great devotion, one should worship him according to the above-mentioned process. Lord Vishnu and the goddess of fortune are an immensely powerful combination. They are the bestowers of all benedictions and the sources of all good fortune. Therefore, the duty of everyone is to worship Lakshmi Narayana. Purport. Lakshmi Narayana, Lord Vishnu, and Mother Lakshmi are always situated in everyone's heart. Ishwarak Sarvabhutanam Riddhisher Junatishtati. However, because non-devotees do not realize that Lord Vishnu stays with his eternal consort Lakshmi within the hearts of all living entities, they are not endowed with the opulence of Lord Vishnu. Unscrupulous men sometimes address a poor man as Daridra Narayana, or poor Narayana. This is most unscientific. Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi are always situated in everyone's heart. But this does not mean that everyone is Narayana, especially not those in poverty. This is a most abominable term to use in connection with Narayana. Narayana never becomes poor, and therefore he can never be called Daridra Narayana. Narayana is certainly situated in everyone's heart, but he is neither poor nor rich. Only unscrupulous persons who do not know the opulence of Narayana try to afflict him with poverty. Text 10. One should offer obeisances unto the Lord with a mind humbled through devotion. While offering dandavats, by falling on the ground like a rod, one should chant the above mantra 10 times. Then one should chant the following prayer.
My Lord Vishnu and Mother Lakshmi, Goddess of Fortune, you are the proprietors of the entire creation. Indeed, you are the cause of the creation. Mother Lakshmi is extremely difficult to understand because she is so powerful that the jurisdiction of her power is difficult to overcome. Mother Lakshmi is represented in the material world as the external energy, but actually she is always the internal energy of the Lord. My Lord, you are the master of energy, and therefore you are the supreme person. You are sacrifice, yajna, personified. Lakshmi, the embodiment of spiritual activities, is the original form of worship offered unto you. You, my Lord, you are the master of energy, and therefore you are the supreme person. You are sacrifice, personified. Lakshmi, the embodiment of spiritual activities, is the original form of worship offered unto you, whereas you are the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Mother Lakshmi, who is here, is the reservoir of all spiritual qualities, whereas you manifest and enjoy all these qualities. Indeed, you are actually the enjoyer of everything. You live as the supersoul of all living entities, and the Goddess of Fortune is the form of their bodies, senses, and minds. She also has a holy name and form, whereas you are the support of all such names and forms, and the cause for their manifestation. Purport: Madhvacharya, the Acharya of the Tattvavadis, has described this verse in the following way. Vishnu is described as yajna, personified, and Mother Lakshmi is described as spiritual activities and the original form of worship. In fact, they represent spiritual activities and the supersoul of all yajna. Lord Vishnu is the supersoul even of Lakshmi Devi, but no one can be the supersoul of Lord Vishnu, for Lord Vishnu himself is the spiritual supersoul of everyone. According to Madhvacharya, there are 2 tattvas, or factors. One is independent and the other is dependent. The first tattva is the Supreme Lord Vishnu, and the second is the Jiva tattva. Lakshmi Devi, being dependent on Lord Vishnu, is sometimes counted among the Jivas. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, however, describe Lakshmi Devi in accordance with the following 2 verses from the Prameya Ratnavali of Baladev Bhusan. The first verse is a quotation from the Vishnu Purana. Nityaiva sa jagan mata Vishnur shrir anapayini yata sarvagato Vishnus tataivayam dvijotama Vishnu syu shaktayas tisras tasu ya kirtita para saiva shristad abhinneti praha shishyan prabhur mahan. O best of the Brahmanas, Lakshmiji is the constant companion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, and therefore she is called Anapayini. She is the mother of all creation. As Lord Vishnu is all-pervading, his spiritual potency, Mother Lakshmi, is also all-pervading. Lord Vishnu has 3 principal potencies, internal, external, and marginal. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has accepted Parashakti, the spiritual energy of the Lord, as being identical with the Lord. Thus she is always included in the independent. Thus she is also included in the independent Vishnu Tattva. In the Kanti Mala commentary on the Prameya Ratnavali, there is this statement: Nanu kochit nityamukta jivatvam lakshmya swikritam tatraha praheti Nityayveti padye sarva vyapti katanina kala kashtyetyadi padya dvaye shudho pit yukta cha mahaprabhunina swashishyan prati lakshmya bhagavad advaitam upadishtam kochid yatasyastu dvaitamuktam tattu tad avishta nityamukta jivam adhaya Sangatamas 2. Although some authoritative Vaishnava disciplic successions count the goddess of fortune among the ever-liberated living entities, jivas, in Vaikuntha, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in accordance with the statement in the Vishnu Purana, has described Lakshmi as being identical with the Vishnu Tattva. The correct conclusion is that the descriptions of Lakshmi as being different from Vishnu are stated when an eternally liberated living entity is imbued with the quality of Lakshmi. They do not pertain to Mother Lakshmi, the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu. 14. You are both the supreme rulers and benedictors of the three worlds. Therefore, my Lord, Uttama Shloka, may my ambitions be fulfilled by your grace. 15. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, thus one should worship Lord Vishnu, who is known as Srinivasa, along with Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, by offering prayers according to the process mentioned above. After removing all the paraphernalia of worship, one should offer them water to wash their hands and mouths, and then one should worship them again.
Thereafter, with devotion and humility, one should offer prayers to the Lord and Mother Lakshmi. Then one should smell the remnants of the food offered, and then again worship the Lord and Lakshmi Ji. 17. Accepting her husband as the representative of the Supreme Person, a wife should worship him with unalloyed devotion by offering him prasad. The husband, being very pleased with his wife, should engage himself in the affairs of his family. Purport. The family relationship of husband and wife should be established spiritually according to the process mentioned above. 18. Between the husband and wife, one person is sufficient to execute this devotional service. Because of their good relationship, both of them will enjoy the result. Therefore, if the wife is unable to execute this process, the husband should carefully do so, and the faithful wife will share the result. Purport. The relationship between the husband and wife is firmly established when the wife is faithful and the husband sincere. Even if the wife, being weaker, is unable to execute devotional service with her husband, if she is chaste and sincere, she shares half of her husband's activities.
Does the husband lose his 50%? What? Does the husband lose his 50%? No. Spiritual math. Great.
19 to 20.
Husband is weak and his wife.
So he gets 100 and she only gets 50. So I think they both get 100.
Sometimes the wife is also stronger. You can see in community. And husband is just
Well,
That's for other reasons.
every combination of permutation possible we see. And, the point is, every combination of permutation is that we see in communities, don't we? That sometimes the husband's strong, sometimes the wife's strong, sometimes the kids are strong, the parents aren't, and they all help each other. Fitty fitty? Fitty Sam.
Fitty.
Yeah.
One should accept this Vishnu Vrata, which is a vow in devotional service, and should not deviate from its execution to engage in anything else. By offering the remnants of prasada, flower garlands, sandalwood pulp, and ornaments, one should daily worship the brahmanas and worship women who peacefully live with their husbands. Must continue following the regulated principles to worship Lord Vishnu with great devotion. Thereafter, Lord Vishnu should be laid in his bed, and then one should take prasad. In this way, husband and wife will be purified and will have all their desires fulfilled.
The chaste wife must perform such devotional service continuously for 1 year. After 1 year passes, she should fast on the full moon day in the month of Kartik, October-November. On the morning of the next day, one should wash oneself, and after worshipping Lord Krishna as before, one should cook as one cooks for festivals as stated in the Griha Sutras. Sweet rice should be cooked with ghee, and this preparation the husband should offer, and with this preparation the husband should offer oblations to the fire 12 times. Thereafter he should satisfy the brahmanas. When the satisfied brahmanas bestow their blessings, he should devotedly offer them respectful obeisances with his head, and with their permission he should take prasada. Before taking his meal, the husband must first seat the acharya comfortably, and along with his relatives and friends should control his speech and offer prasada to the guru. Then the wife should eat the remnants of the oblation of sweet rice cooked with ghee. Eating the remnants ensures a learned, devoted son and all good fortune. If this vow or ritualistic ceremony is observed in accordance if this vow or ritualistic ceremony is observed according to the description of Shastra, even in this life a man will be able to achieve all the benedictions he desires from the Lord. A wife who performs this ritualistic ceremony will surely receive good fortune, opulent sons, a long-living husband, a good reputation, and a good home. Purport: in Bengal even today, if a woman lives for a long time with her husband, she is considered very fortunate. A woman generally desires a good husband, good children, a good home, prosperity, opulence, and so on. As recommended in this verse, a woman will receive all these desirable benedictions, and a man will also be able to receive all benedictions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, by performing this particular type of vrat, a man and a woman in Krishna consciousness will be happy in the material world, and because of being Krishna conscious, they will be promoted to the spiritual world.
Sounds like a good deal. 26 to 28. Cycle. If an unmarried girl observes this vrata, she will be able to get a very good husband. If a woman who is avira, who has no husband or son, executes this ritualistic ceremony, she can be promoted to the spiritual world. A woman whose children have died after birth can get a child with a long duration of life and also become very fortunate in possessing wealth. If a woman is unfortunate, she will become fortunate, and if ugly, she will become beautiful. By observing this vrat, a diseased man can gain relief from his disease and have an able body with which to work. If one recites this narration while offering oblations to the pitas and demigods, especially during the Shraddha ceremony, the demigods and inhabitants of Pitriloka will be extremely pleased with him and bestow upon him the fulfillment of all desires. After one performs this ritualistic ceremony, Lord Vishnu and his wife, Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, are very pleased with him. O King Parikshit, now I have completely described how Diti performed this ceremony and had good children, the Maruts, and a happy life. I have tried to explain this to you as elaborately as possible. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 6th canto, 19th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Performing of the Pungsavana Ritualistic Ceremony. End of the 6th canto!
I was wondering, is this ritual ceremony is practical in our days? Should we tell our wives to pursue this type of activity?
I mean, main thing is the tenets of. Main thing is that the program that we have already in place is sufficient, more than sufficient. Not necessary to do. I mean, these are all. The main point of these is that, as I was saying the other night, even in our padatis, it's mentioned that grahastas are doing all kinds of pujas, and because the names of the Supreme Personality of God are there, Namanyanantasya Yashon Kitaniyat, they're saying Janardana Namaha, Vishnu Namaha. That's why, they have so much impact and so forth. Controlling the senses, doing the artiks, doing Harinam, Sankirtan, self-sufficient. Yes?
Is it like a karma conduct? Is this like a ritualistic karma conduct practice?
Well, there were certainly a lot of materialistic benedictions offered for people who have mindset, but ultimately it was meant to please Lakshmi and Narayan and attain, pure devotional service. Prabhu?
Just an appreciation from this chapter, text 5. Srila Prabhupada talks about how the Lord appears to have needs that he can't fulfill himself. And then, Jai, Canto 7.
7th canto has entered the house.
And he says, how does he put it? I think he mentions himself in an oblique way. Oh, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was quite competent enough to spread his name and mission all over the world, but still he depended upon his devotee to do this work. I took that he's talking about himself. And I like that, and I also liked how he said, considering all these points, the most important aspect of the Supreme Lord's self-sufficiency is that he depends on his devotee. This is called his causeless mercy. The devotee who has perceived this causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by realization can understand the master and the servant.
It's the greatest opulence. There's another place where it states that this his giving the power and depending on his devotees to do things that he would know is his greatest opulence.
Well, just on that point, one name of Krishna is worth thousands of names of Vishnu. So our process, is so much more potent because of the power of Krishna. And also Krishna's mercy is so much greater, patram pushpam param toyam, as Srila Prabhupada mentions, that Krishna accepts such a simple offering, and when it's done with devotion, he accepts that offering and the devotee can be promoted to the spiritual world.
Question, if we can hear a little bit more on there is no need to artificially exert oneself. There was this, but I don't remember the verse.
I couldn't hear that.
There's no need to artificially exert oneself. Patram pushpam palam toyam. Simply offer a flower, fruit, and you'll be liberated. No reason to artificially exert oneself.
With devotion.
Unnecessarily exert oneself.
Yeah. No need to artificially, but one should exert one. This whole month of Damodar, Parishramam and Krishna Kripa, these two fingers, that the Lord's mercy is there when the devotee, as Mother Yashoda exemplified, makes a great effort, then Krishna's mercy becomes so much more potent.
Navina? Javi? Oh, Mahendra.
I just wanted to mention how I was impressed by the solution of Kashyapa. He was like in a predicament, what to do. He promised he cannot break the promise, and at the same time cannot kill Indra. What to do? Bhakti. So bhakti is the solution to all predicaments and unsolvable situations.
Nice. I was thinking earlier also about how Chitraketu was cursed by Parvati, and it was an acceptable situation because he knew the result would be he would go back to Godhead. So I was thinking how, although we perform many, we give our lifetime to the practice of devotional service, such, still we need a lot of thrust to ultimately get out of the material world altogether. Despite the fact that he had attained perfection, there he was with the Vidyadharas traveling around an airplane and so forth, and then the arrangement to actually extricate him finally from any kind of connection to the material world was this next birth as Vajrasura. I mean, it was a little bit tumultuous, to say the least. He ended up swallowing Indra, getting his head sawed off with a thunderbolt, and so forth. But that's kind of indicative. When I heard it, it seemed the drama that it takes to actually get out of the material world finally, because it's so ingrained that devotional service great, but I'll still stay here anyway, and maybe someday, some lifetime or whatever. And unless there's a grand arrangement that just like really blasts you off, like, okay, get on, we're going now, that it's really hard to break out of the atmosphere finally and get home.
Thank you. In addition to that, it seems that, everything will go up in flames. And so here we have a good example of that. And for devotee, Krishna takes special interest. Prabhupada always took great, he had great realization of that verse. Harishita Danam Shanai. When Krishna takes special interest of a devotee, then he starts making the arrangements for bringing him closer. And for the mundaners, it looks like tragedy, defeat, complete confusion. But the devotee is not perturbed or fazed by such. It's not pleasant, but he just has full faith that this is the Lord's plan for him, and he goes along with it.
I was impressed with how deep the culture is, the Vedic culture, and how, especially towards the beginning of the universe, when all of these principles are being set up and all the personalities are interacting with one another, even in the most difficult of circumstances, the cultural, spiritual, cultural, aspects win the day, and even though we may not be able to duplicate the way it's being done here in Kali Yuga, but still the principle, that at every turn there's some talk about how Vishnu is to be pleased, and the goal of life is spiritual, and despite all these other things that are going on, all this envy and cursing and counter cursing and violence and whatever, but at the end of the day, everyone is coming together and saying, even look, Aditi says, okay, I want to make a vow to kill Indra. And Indra is watching her while she's doing every little thing and waiting, and he's got a full mystic power. He can figure it out. He doesn't have to send in a satellite from the sky to spy. And then at the end, when it was said and done, even though she didn't get her thing fulfilled, and he was embarrassed in the way that he was, they both ended up being, they still were family members and loved one another, and it was incredible. It was incredible. So, this just shows me that, if you take the essence in all these things about women and this and that, but if the essence is there, if one's purpose in life is spiritual, and the purpose of a culture is spiritual, and everyone is together trying to get there, and then even if they don't always agree with one another, it just elevates the whole situation. And therefore I was appreciating how the Bhagavatam, even though all these kinds of things are there, it ultimately shows how everything applied in Krishna consciousness results in all auspiciousness.
Can't we all just get along?
I was reflecting, this is something I thought about earlier in the canto, and I didn't mention it, but in the context of what you were saying about how, and Nirvana Prabhu also was saying about how the Lord that takes everything away, a special mercy, and still we're so attached to this world. I was thinking about how after Indra got his thunderbolt weapon directly from the Lord, and the plan here, it's completely authorized by the Lord, still he attacks first with his club. His trusty club that he had so much faith in. He actually had more faith in his club than Vishnu's weapon. Vritrasura had to encourage him. Of course the club failed because it's just a club. That wasn't the plan. You're supposed to attack with the thunderbolt first. And it didn't work, and he gets knocked back 14 yards and he's all morose, and Vritrasura has to give him a lecture.
Then he doesn't think that it's thunderbolt.
Yeah, because he thinks that it's under his power, Yeah. Anyway, I could see myself in that in so many ways, just doing the same old thing. And of course it doesn't work because I'm not doing what Krishna's given me to do. And then somebody has to give me. Anyway, so I like that. I also just wanted to point out that we finished the 6th canto in 7 calendar days. So it's actually 6.5 if you take out the half day we were in Vrindavan. Just wanted to say, that's pretty cool.
We're just saying.
I'm just saying.
Nice points. Patri?
I am really impressed with the situation and how the strategy of teaching Angira Muni, because don't give advice unless you're hired. When he was not ready, okay, you just get a son. You're so stubborn, okay, get it. But when he was howling with open mouth, okay, this is the time now to give instructions, because he's ready now to receive it. And when he came, and then he didn't do it himself. Don't give credit to others, And this boy did it as a tape recorder on his behalf, because he spoke to him and he accepted immediately. And it's interesting enough, after that he got the mantra. So, Supreme Lord didn't give him spiritual world, he sent him to Vidyagara. To still enjoy for a long time. But because maybe some material desires were still there as a king, but at the end he just created the situation to chip off all those final desires. But why? I have a small question. He said he changed the body straight away, or he had to complete his lifetime? 2 times when he became Chitraketu. So immediately, it is not mentioned. So he was living happily ever after, and then when he get new body, then he became Vidyadhara, and then that body finished, then he became Vritrasura, or he just dropped on the spot after curse. Any information?
Nice points. We'll see if anything's there in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. It wasn't there in the text. Go ahead.
I really like these prayers by Chitraketu, talking about the relativity in between how happiness and distress, how the Lord is indifferent to both of them, and because they are both relative. And I was just thinking that so many people don't believe in God because all the suffering in the material world, and it really shows how much in material consciousness one is when he's thinking like this, because similarly one could think, well, why is there so much happiness in this world? In the sense that they're both concepts are kind of foreign to the soul. It's like the real joy of the soul is not material happiness. Still, we're so much kind of, hankering and working hard to get it, depriving ourselves of the ananda, of the joy of devotional service. I don't know if I explain myself.
I think
Yeah.
you very well. It reminded me of that sentence that we caught onto where Prabhupada said that kama means desires that can never be fulfilled. He said that means lusty desire. I was thinking about his choice of words also, because fulfilled means that there's a sense of fulfillment once you reach what you're looking for. But that kama, I find that to be a good jumping off point to teach Krishna consciousness on the basis of what you're saying, that happiness and distress are within the mind. People can relate to these ideas about certain desires. They're a category of desires that can't be fulfilled because they're illusory and they always stay outside our grasp. And if that's the case, then one might absolutely restrict oneself from going after those particular desires. In fact, Prabhupada said the same thing there. Once you categorize them and see that there are certain kinds of desires you can't fulfill anyway, then why would you pursue them? That's a beginning point for being very dedicated in the process of Krishna consciousness. If you have a Sayatmika Buddh here. Did you have a point? Yes. Okay. Okay.
Dushpurena nalena. Krishna says it in the Gita. Dushpurena nalena, the point you're making. That lust is never fulfilled. It burns like fire, and that means the more you put into it, the more it burns. It never goes out.
I was also very impressed by how everybody is playing everybody. Like the wife, she didn't reveal her mind. She had some hidden agenda, and then the husband was shocked. Like, hey. So she was manipulating him, but then he returned very nicely. Okay, well. And he applied his knowledge to trick her, but ultimately Krishna tricked everybody. So it was really like happy end. But this lack of straightforward honesty is like shocking sometimes. Even at that level of those are all devotees generally, the demigods and everything, and still. It's insane.
It is nice that they worked it out at the end, though, because Indra came clean and he was honest, and he said, I was here trying to kill your embryo. That's why I was here. I mean, she said, really, tell me, don't lie. Why were you here? And they had an open conversation. That's that's very helpful to know that you can have that, even if you go to such lengths to deceive somebody. At the end, if both of you just are straightforward and you deal with the problem and you're honest, then you can move forward. Is that bug zapper on right next to you, Havi Prabhu? Is the light on that bug zapper down below?
No.
Oh, got to turn it on. Just click it on there. These guys are coming alive here. Some rich. It is on? Okay, thank you. Okay.
I was impressed by how Chitraketu responded when Mother Parvati cursed him. Like he could have, just for a small thing, he was like, he got a curse to become a demon. I was thinking how, when sometimes even the intention is not to criticize or not to do anything wrong, how it comes about and how one responds to it, it was very nicely exemplified by Chitraketu.
Very interesting point. It reminded me too that there are things that come up in our life that we call providential. There seems to be an inordinate reaction to an incident, and you're like, how could that have ever happened? And how can I deal with it? And it's like, really, you can't. You just have to depend on Krishna, and those are things that are called providential. Prabhu?
And that applies to positive things, not just negative things.
Yeah, this was the example which Bhagavatam called a sadhu lakshana, how he reacted. This is the example.
Sadhu lakshana.
Sadhu lakshana, yeah.
That's a nice name, sadhu lakshana.
And I was impressed by a point related to Radhika's about the happiness and how Prabhupada in one purport explained that there is only misery and suffering in this world. Even the so-called happiness is actually misery. And then a little later says that for devotee there is only happiness in this world. And even the so-called misery for the devotees is happiness only due to the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this
Yeah, it's interesting. Srila Prabhupada mentioning that greatness of the man can be understood by his ability to tolerate provocating situation. So that's why such a character shown in Srimad Bhagavatam, they just didn't make it up. Okay, let me just become very nice because everybody are looking at me. But in this situation, it explains two things. That sometimes it is saying that mother chastising the daughter in order to teach daughter-in-law. So sometimes by using his devotees, Krishna actually teaching all world the example by chastising the daughter because she will not run away. She is family member. So similarly, he chastises the devotee unexpectedly to devotees even. Because when you're expecting something, you get prepare yourself, calm yourself, dress yourself. But when test comes unexpectedly, oops! So you have to react naturally from the heart. Because you cannot fake it until you make it. When it's happening automatically, so you have to manifest your own real face. So Chitraketu in this case, oops, I curse you. Okay, thank you. His humility was rather natural. It's just not made up. As we know, there's many.
Sadhu, sadhu. Nando.
When this is a Chanakya Pandita thing, he said some guy was speaking many languages, but nobody knew what is his real language. And then just throw and started to speak in his own language.
Patri Prabhu is the reservoir of all stories and dramas.
Yeah.
That's
Hare Krishna.
Nice.
I like this. I like the mood of the speaker, of Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami, because at the end of chapter 18, Shukadeva Goswami says, "I've replied as far as possible to the questions you have asked me, especially in regard to this pure auspicious narration about the Maruts. Now you may inquire further, and I shall explain more." So I just really like the mood that Maharaj Parikshit, he doesn't have anything else, nothing else is going on for him right now. He's like fully just like invested in hearing the Bhagavatam. Shukadeva Goswami has such a taste for narrating. He just wants to keep speaking and speaking, and so there's this perfect atmosphere. The speaker and the listener are just so enthusiastic, and no one's going anywhere because there's like, everyone's going to stick around until the 7 days are up. And it's, like Shukadeva Goswami is not like, okay, is it okay? Have I spoken enough? I'm kind of getting tired here. I'm getting thirsty. I'm hungry. I kind of want to go home. But both of them are just like so enthusiastic, so it's really nice to hear that.
Nice point. Last point from Vaikuntha Nayaka Prabhu.
Could you please explain the point where it says that Chitraketu could curse Parvati, because Shiva and Parvati are not ordinary, they are also great devotees. Maya Devi is considered the devotee like this. So, and it's also mentioned that Shiva is just below, is not the Lord, but is above the living entities. So, I'm having difficulty in understanding how Chitraketu Maharaj could curse Parvati.
Are you looking in the commentaries? Just in context, it's that the pure devotee of the Lord has naturally all kinds of influence and mystic power and everything like that, because he's favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's all mentioned in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that he has all these powers. He just doesn't use them because he's not interested in that. So, this is a little back room, hard to find, hard to get to. You got to come all the way to Govardhan to be in this place. It always reminds me of gamblers whenever they go to another city They'll get to Cincinnati and it's like, where's the game happening? And there's some game happening in some, place where they knock on the door and it's like, what's the password? They let him in. And then they take him into a smoke-filled room in the back and they deal him out the cards. And, people get addicted to gambling, and wherever they go, main thing they want to know, where's the game happening? And in the same way, the devotees, like all of you, have become addicted to hearing and chanting. You look for that back room where the intense hearing and chanting is going on. And, find out what's the password, how to get in. It took a lot of trouble for all of you to come here and to, find a place. You're taking some inconvenience, sleeping on the floor, doing whatever you have to do to be in the game. And this is the real game where the Bhagavatam is being recited. And I like the point you made. There's nowhere else to go. There's not a mood here like it's 45 minutes and we got to get out of here. Of course, we do have a schedule to keep because we still have to maintain. We're not our bodies, but we're in a body. And, but the full intention of all of the ablutions we're doing, the prasadam we're taking, is so we can come back in the room and continue to hear. And that peacefulness of mind is there, as you were pointing out, that we're not thinking of going somewhere else. This is the main thing. We're just thinking of going to the next verse, the next canto, and so forth. And I would say this is the most important of activities that one could do, possibly anywhere. In fact, Kesava Bharati Maharaj and I were, in 1974, we went to see Prabhupada. He was staying at Kesava Bharati Maharaj's house, and a little apartment. He and Jayananda Prabhu lived together, and they'd fix it up before Prabhupada would come, and then they'd move out. We went up there, we were sitting in front of Prabhupada for a darshan, and there was discussion going on about our Sankirtan activities. And the temple president was telling the scores to Prabhupada and everything like that. And Prabhupada, it was just the book distributors. So then Prabhupada looked right at us and he said, you must also read my books. I have not written these just for selling. I've written them for you to read, to become pure devotees and go back to Godhead. And we felt it just like a thunderbolt going straight into our hearts. And it was very sustaining, because I remember many years in the 1970s and the 1980s when there were many parties that just, I remember hanging out with some traveling parties, and they were saying, we don't get any time to read. And I was saying, that's crazy. Prabhupada personally told us to read his books. So I always like to think that as much effort as Prabhupada put into writing his books, we should put at least that much effort into reading them. The way Prabhupada was relentless in, making his schedule tight and stealing extra time, and he consistently every day read or wrote something translated. On our side, we can't write so many books. Well, many of you can. I couldn't do it. But if Prabhupada did that much, we can do this side, and that's our relationship with him as the Acharya. Prabhu.
Sadhu, 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 sadhu. I just would like to express my gratitude that we are able to feel that how you have taken that instruction to heart, of reading Prabhupada's books. It's very contagious, and it's really, helping me personally. I hope everybody else to value Prabhupada's books and the reading of Prabhupada's books. So we cannot repay, basically. And the fact that you are also opening the doors for all of us, but you could do it on your own. So thank you so much.
Kesava Bharati Maharaj built a house that all the hearers and chanters could live in.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I'd like to second what Radhika Nagar Prabhu mentioned. To all the two of you and to all the devotees here in the room, because Sankirtan is the perfect yagya of the age, and it requires a little focus and concentration and a little austerity, but this is the right place. And by doing the parikramas and associating with the other devotees, you get that extra push. So thank you for allowing us to be here and taking part in that. We're decamping with your permission and blessings.
Here. It always
We're
makes
heading
such a
down
big
to Puri.
difference, you and your team.
Hare
We're
Krishna.
really going to miss you. The energy always goes down after you leave. Navina, thanks for everything. We'll lie in front of the car. And in closing,
We also have to leave.
you're not leaving either. Ashri,
We're
you can't
leaving
leave.
tomorrow morning for the. So, but we'll be back
You'll be back?
one day.
Well, in closing, I'd like to quote Elvis. Say thank you very much. Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Bo. Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Vanchakopdurvisha Kripasnavevacha Patitanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavi no. Hey, Canto 7, starting tomorrow morning at 8:45 a.m.